Chapter 1. The Scholar. I have learned, in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. Philippians 4:11. The Apostle Paul wrote these words both to anticipate and preempt an objection. In an earlier verse he had laid down many grave and heavenly exhortations, among them to be careful for nothing. Philippians 4:6. We are not to exclude practical care, for he who does not provide for his own house hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. 1 Timothy 5:8. Nor are we to not care for our spiritual state, for Peter said to give all diligence to make your calling and election sure. 2 Peter 1:10. But we are to exclude all anxious care about the issues and events of things. Take no thought for your life what ye shall eat. Matthew 6:25, and in this sense it should be a Christian's care not to be careful. The word careful in the Greek comes from the word that signifies to cut the heart in pieces. It was a soul-dividing care. Pay attention to this. David said, "Commit thy way unto the Lord." Psalm 37:5. The Hebrew word means to roll your way unto the Lord. It is our work to cast away care. 1 Peter 5:7, and it's God's work to take our care. By our immoderation, we take his work out of his hand. Care, when it deviates from its proper role, when it is either distrustful or distracting, is very dishonourable to God. It takes away his providence, as if he sat in heaven and was not concerned about what became of things here below, like a man who makes a clock and then leaves it to wind itself. Excessive care and worry take the heart from better things, and usually, while we are thinking what we should do to live, we forget how to die. Care is a spiritual sickness that consumes and depresses. By our worry and care, we may sooner add a mile to our grief than a foot to our comfort. God threatens it as a curse. They shall eat their bread with carefulness. Ezekiel 12:19. It would be better to fast than to eat of that bread. Be careful for nothing. Now, in case anyone should say, "Paul, you preach something to us that you have scarcely learned yourself. Have you learned not to be anxious?" The apostle seemed to tacitly answer that in the words of the text, "I have learned, in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content." This is a speech worthy to be engraved on our hearts, and to be written in letters of gold on the crowns and diadems of princes. The text branches itself into two general parts. 1. The scholar, Paul, I have learned. 2. The lesson, in whatsoever state to be content. I begin with the first, the scholar and his skill. Paul said, "I have learned." Out of this I will explain two of my observations. First, the apostle does not say, "I have heard that in every state I should be content," but rather, "I have learned." Our first doctrine is, it is not enough for Christians to hear their duty. They must learn their duty. It is one thing to hear and another thing to learn, just as it is one thing to eat and another thing to cook. The Apostle Paul was a practitioner. Christians hear much, but I fear learn little. In the parable of the good soil, there were 4 sorts of grounds, Luke 8:5-8, but just one good ground, which is an emblem of this truth: there are many hearers, but few learners.